So in the guide, we got a whole section about laser, and you guys can see we got to change the tool head and also the build platform, which is pretty straightforward. And it kind of goes through the process there, and also calibrating your focal point and things like that. So yeah, we're gonna go through all the steps here. So first things first, let's remove this filament, put it out of the way. We'll grab our included screwdriver, slowly push this over so we can get to the back of it. And there are 4 bolts that you guys can't see, but obviously quite simple. It would have been pretty cool if they had some kind of like latching system where the heads would latch onto the rail, but for now we have to deal with unbolting it. And before you do that, you probably want to go ahead and unplug it also. But yeah, simple as that. Our 3D printing tool head is off, and now we can install the laser the same way. So because the laser doesn't do any actual work, it's just a light, I'm just going to use 2 bolts, and it's very sturdy. So you can choose to put all of them in if you want. And now we can plug it in. It doesn't take more than a minute or so to change the tool head. Now the thing that will probably take a bit longer to change would be the platform. So let's pull these prints off. The build plate itself, which is magnetic. And now we got a bunch of bolts that we have to undo to completely remove the heated bed. So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug it here and take out all these little bolts. All right, that should be our last bolt, and the platform comes right off, and you guys can see the frame underneath. So now we're going to grab our aluminum pieces that are part of the bed for the laser. So there's 2 channels that have a little like cutout, half a hole, and those actually combine together like that to make a full hole, and they will go towards the center, and the ones with 4 holes will go to the side. And you'll see how it all lines up once you get them in the right position. So they all do go together. You just have to make sure you orientate them right, and also the half holes are right in the middle. And so now we need to grab our M410 hex bolt, and the reason we're changing them is because we have a flat bottom. As you guys can see, this is the bolts we had in the 3D printing heated bed. So they're like tapered, but these are flat, so you need the flat ones, which again are M410s. And so now we're just going to install 14 of these bolts into the lasering platform. So yeah guys, as you can see, this is quite involved going from one tool head to another. Now the reason you would do all this is because you would be doing some major cutting, as you need this platform for that, because the laser has to fall through something, and that's why the bed is the way it is. So if you're just going to do some, minor engravement, you can just probably do this on any surface, but for anything more serious, you will need to install this build plate. So you want to do the middle last because of the 2 halves. So I've done this side, I'm going to go to that side now. And putting all these bolts in makes me think that having a little electric screwdriver that's powered would be much more quicker than doing it by hand. But again, it doesn't take that long, maybe about 5 to 8 minutes to do all of this. So all right, and that's all of our bolts, and our bed is installed. So let's turn the machine on. And right away it knows that we have the laser plugged in. So let's check out what it says here. So there's some safety instructions. So once you understand everything, click on got it. So the next step, it says to measure the thickness of the material and then secure it down onto the platform. And so we do have a couple of these sample pieces of plywood here. That looks like about a couple millimeters. So in the manual, it shows you it's like these little silicone plug things, and I cannot find mine, so I'm not sure if I'm missing them or I just can't see them. But in any case, we'll continue without it. Let's click on next. So now it wants us to set the thickness of the material that we're working on. And in the manual, it does say that this piece here is 1.5 millimeters. So let's go ahead and set that to 1.5. And then we'll click save. So for the next part, it says the machine needs to know the height of the laser. So let's click next. So you guys can't see this, but the head on the top is homing. And now going down. All right, so it stopped pretty close to the working platform. And here it says that we need to lower the laser down to the surface, and that's gonna automatically kind of know where it needs to be. So let's go ahead and start going down. So I'm gonna click on the 10 millimeter here. So, but be careful, there's not much room here. I don't even know if I have 10 millimeters there. Well, let's try it. Okay, yeah, that was too much. So yeah, what we're trying to do is gently or ever so slightly just touch or be very close to the material that we're working on. So if you're happy with where you are, I'm going to click next. So now it reminds us that we need to wear our goggles. So go ahead and put those on. And this is going to protect you from the laser light. So now we're going to set the work origin, so where the laser starts. Let's click on next. And a light came on and also a fan on the head. And we have a new menu here that says set work origin. So from here you can move the laser where you want it to start. So we're gonna go right off the middle, but if you do want to move it to like a corner, that's where you do it here. So I guess let's click on next. Okay, so now the machine is gonna do auto focusing, and basically what it's gonna do is gonna burn some lines in and then use the camera, I presume, to figure out what focus it needs. So let's go ahead and run that. Make sure you're wearing your glasses. And there it goes. So it's burning some lines into the board, and it's going higher and higher on the Z-axis here. Let me zoom you guys in a bit more. Okay, it's processing. So it's going up to look at it. And it says you have completed autofocus successfully. So yeah, really cool, as it automatically adjusts how high it needs to be according to this test here. All right, so let's click complete. So for next part, it wants to calibrate the camera that's on the laser head. So let's click on next. And it wants to use a white sheet of paper. And I'm just gonna use this printing paper here. That should be good. We'll click on next. And it looks like it's going to run another test for the camera calibration. You guys might not be able to see that. It's way too bright on the camera. See if I can darken it up a bit. So it's drawing a line, or like a box, I guess. I don't know what this picture is showing here. Okay, so it's not a box, it's lines. Alright, so I guess it's taking photos and processing them, and we're at 2 out of 4. Alright, it looks like it's done. We'll click on complete, and it says awesome, you have completed the initial setup for the laser. Now you can prepare a G-code file using SnapMaker Lubon to start a laser job. Got it. And again, looks like we need an update for the laser function. So let's click on update, and it's already updating. Wow, that was quick. I'm gonna remove this, and you guys see how it kind of cut it, and I guess it was going off of this to calibrate the camera. All right, we're at 100% for the firmware update. Sounds like the machine restarted. Now it's updating the controller. Yeah, it's quite amazing how flawlessly this thing works. So connecting it to the Wi-Fi definitely makes a lot of sense. Not only to control it straight from the Lubon software, but also for the updates and whatnot else that the printer needs. All right, we are successful. We'll click on complete, and it looks like we are done, and this is our main menu. And we can see here on the screen that we have the laser in green and also camera green, so everything is good to go, and our laser height is 21 millimeters. All right, so we got the software open. Let's click on a laser, and then there's gonna be 3 and 4 axes. We're doing the 3 axes. So 4 axes is like if you have something round, this is where you'd use this, but we're gonna use the 3 axes. And so here it wants us to confirm the work size. So I'm guessing this is the correct platform, and also origin is at center. So we'll confirm that, and we can see our workspace here. So let's go ahead and open up this gift box as our first project. Now I'm not sure if this is the whole build volume or, okay, yes, it says 190 by 190 is the size of the project. It's gonna choose us which process, and I'm guessing vector is probably the way to go. Okay, so yeah, so depending on what you're doing, either you're cutting or you are like lasering an image in, there'll be these different types. So we're gonna stick with vector and go next here on the bottom. So next thing we need to do is create a tool path. So we are cutting 1.5 millimeters, yes. On the path, jog speed, the work speed, and number of passes too should be enough. And the laser power is at 100. So we'll save this. And now we can generate the G-code down here. So now that it's sliced, we can export it. So we can either send it to our workspace or put it on a card. So for this one, we'll put it on the thumb drive. And you guys can see the file name. I'm just gonna save it to my desktop and then throw it into the thumb drive, which is right here. Yeah, simple as that, guys. Now we can take it to the machine. All right, so I got the thumb drive. Let's plug it in. It's detected. We'll click on start, USB, and we can see our giftbox.svg file that we made for this job. So let's click on that. And here it's showing us the preview. It's gonna take 35 minutes and 5 seconds. And you can adjust your settings from here. So if we're ready, we're gonna click on ready. So here it's asking us if we want to choose auto mode, which will calibrate the laser distance on its own using, I guess, its camera and whatever other functions it has to know that, or you can manually set it. So let's click on auto, as that would be very simple. Again, we got to set the thickness here. Okay, use goggles. So if that origin looks good, we're going to click on start, which is the middle, and there it goes. And this is the screen we get while it's lasering, which we have a progress bar there. It says 33 minutes remaining. Our file name, the laser power, work speed is 140 millimeters a second. And we got a pause and stop button. And also the elapsed time, 30 seconds. So yeah, it looks like it's cutting away. Looking really good. All right, so the project is done and our laser moves up out of the way, all the way to the top. It took 35 minutes and 36 seconds. We'll click complete and goes back to the main menu. So let's see what we got here. So it looks like the laser completely cut through these pieces. And what I noticed with this kind of bed is that whenever it's cutting, it has a lot of airflow because of these fins. And so like the smoke and stuff kind of like just goes out the bottom, which is pretty cool. But let's see how it did, and you guys can see all the pieces are coming off real easy. So yeah, for this 1.5 millimeter board that we had, did a really good job with the settings that they recommended. So it looks like this is some kind of box or something, and I'm not sure if we're gonna figure out how all this goes, but technically it shouldn't be too hard, but you never know with these projects. So I didn't really look this thing up and how it's supposed to go together, so I'm probably gonna not do it right here. But then again, I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess it's like a little box with a lid on top. And I think it'd be pretty cool to maybe engrave something on the side of it here as a test. So maybe we'll do that real quick. Alright, so I used the text in the slicer. We burnt this just print into the side of the box. And by the way, this is how the top goes. There's a smaller hole in the larger one. So the ones with the taller cutouts is where it goes up. And you put that and the lid goes here. So it's like a little storage box. And we have Just Print on here, which is my other channel that's dedicated just for 3D printing. So yeah, very cool. I think for the next part, we should move to the CNC, as that's probably the most intimidating, at least for me, as I'm very unfamiliar with it. But so far with this machine, it seems like everything is very well navigated through the screen here and makes a lot of sense. And they also include the projects to get you started. And once you start doing it, it kind of starts to make sense of how to operate everything. All right, so I quickly changed the head and the work platform. There are quite a bit of little bolts to put in, but it wasn't that big of a deal, honestly. And I went ahead and powered up the machine, and this is the screen that we got. So when you change the heads, it automatically knows what head that you're on. So in the manual, we got the CNC carving section, and here it goes through how to change the head, and then also the work platform. And then it goes into explaining how to fasten the material to the bed and how to get started on your first carve and what bits to use. So they included this black, kind of like a plexiglass sample material that we can use. I'm gonna actually leave one of the sides on, and we're gonna clamp it down to the bed. And the way you do that is with this kit here, which are like these little arms, or actually pretty big arms, that'll kind of go on each corner that hold the material down. And we also have these little spacers that are kind of half round that we're going to use. And the hardware is this M470 bag, which consists of a long bolt with a little wing nut on it. And so the way we're going to do this is pretty simple. We're going to grab one of the arms and we're going to set this adapter here on top. And we're going to run our nut just a little bit there. So we're going to go through the little spacer and then through here like this. So hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, you can slide over to any of the positions. And in our platform, we got a lot of mounting points. So we're gonna kind of try to center this up and choose one. But yeah, we're just gonna screw the bolt first into the platform just to get into the threads. And then we can tighten the wing nut to put pressure down, but make sure you go down enough so you get a good grip. So we started this one here. We can do this one. But yeah, you guys can see it's not that hard to figure it out. And just like I said earlier, once you start doing it, it all kind of makes sense. All right, so that looks pretty good. So now I'm just gonna go around and tighten the wing nuts to clamp this piece down, and now it's not going anywhere. So you want to take extra care to do this and make sure you secure the material that you're going to engrave into very good, because with CNC it's quite important as there's a lot of vibrations and pressure in cutting material. So we have two bits to use, a rounded one and kind of like a flat edge, and then here it shows us kind of how to secure the chuck and make sure it doesn't go kind of crooked. Kind of goes a little more detail here how to do that. So let's grab the little nut, and they're actually shrink wrapped. And the reason for that is because they're oily, very nice quality parts. So the thicker part goes inside the nut like this. And this is what we see on the other end. And what we're going to do is we're going to literally go right into the main shaft here and start tightening this up. So we're just going to start it. And now we need to get one of the bits, and we're going to use the flat one. So we got ball end and flat. So they just open up, and this is what the bit looks like. So we're gonna grab it. Be careful not to poke yourself, but it's gonna kind of squeeze in there and you might have to kind of wiggle it around to get it in there. But you wanna try to go in there as deep as you can. If you have to, loosen the nut more, or all the way almost. And it's gonna go in there until you feel it stop. Then what you wanna do is tighten the nut, and that will hold it. And then these 2 wrenches that I didn't know what were for are for this right here. So the 17 will go to the nut, and the 14 will go right here on the flat spot on the shaft where you hold it, and we're gonna turn the nut. So you just want to tighten this up reasonably good. Don't go crazy, but make sure it's tight. So right when you feel resistance, like decent amount of it, stop. And that is it. So we got our tip in and our material clamped down to the platform. So on the screen, this is what it starts with. We got safety instructions. Let's get started. So it's telling us to wear goggles, which I have them ready right here. And click next. So we have fixed the material to the platform. Next, we installed our bit, and I guess we're done. And there's also a firmware update for the CNC module. So let's update that. All right, and it's updated. So let's click on complete. And we have the start menu, which comes up as CNC with a green little dot, meaning everything's good to go. The only thing I'm a little worried about is that maybe when this starts cutting, it's going to go into the platform and cut the platform. So I think I want to go ahead and put the spacer, or better yet, this one that we used earlier, to kind of give us a little bit of breathing room underneath. So I'm not sure if this is gonna mess us up or not. I'm just trying to preserve the platform from not getting ruined, since I'm not too confident of what I'm doing here. But this should be a pretty quick exchange. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. It's still super solid, and it'll give us a little buffer underneath just in case it goes too deep or whatnot else. So just trying to take a little extra precaution. So for the next part, let's jump to the program and generate a project for the CNC. All right, so we're back at the computer. We got the Lubon software at the home page. We're gonna click on CNC 3 axes, and it can do 4 also. Asking about our last project, we'll cancel that. So the job setup, everything looks correct, confirm. So let's bring in a file, which if we click on home, there was one here. Here we go, CNC phone holder. So we'll click on that, and it goes into our project. So you can modify it here with the options on the left here, and also edit a few things here. So let's click on next. So I had to click on here to get our options here, but yeah, it looks like we have flat mill 1.5 and all of the parameters here. Hopefully they are all correct. So if we click on create toolpath, you can see the settings. I think we already have everything we need, as there is a toolpath already in the list. So yeah, and if we click more on here, we can see that's our toolpath, all the parameters, and you can actually change this from the flat to the ball end. This is the 2 we have, but we're gonna keep this the way everything is. Yeah, the target depth, you guys can see, is 3.2 millimeters, and there's gonna be, looks like, quite a few step downs of 0.5 millimeters. In any case, I'm gonna click on cancel here so we don't change anything. And yeah, we're pretty much ready to generate the code. This is the project here, and so it's going to be centered on our material that we put in, that black sheet. So let's generate the code, and this is what it generates. You can actually click on simulation here, and we can kind of see a simulated cut that it's going to do. So we can also move this around and see. And if we zoom in, you guys can see we have quite a few steps here on the way down. But I'm sure I'm probably missing a few things here and not saying everything correctly, as I'm not an expert in this CNC stuff. But in any case, all we got to do now is export our project. So we're going to click on export, and we're going to load it to workspace, because we'll send it to our machine from here. And we can see this is the preview. So let's exit out of here. We do need to connect again, so I'm going to do that. All right, it wants to home. So the machine is home and connected. We can see here, we got CNC, and we can click on our new project, wherever it is. Here we go, phone holder, the very top. So you can start it from here or send it to the device, and that's what I'm gonna do. All right, so it's sent, and that's it. Now our machine has the file ready to go. So I'm gonna disconnect from the software. And that's pretty much it, guys. So we'll go back to the SnapMaker and start our carving. All right, so it homed, and we should have our new file in here. So we're gonna click on start. And sure enough, there it says phone holder CNC. So we'll click on that. And I'm guessing we click on ready. So it reminds us to wear our safety goggles, which I'm gonna go ahead and put on. And you definitely wanna wear them because there will be stuff flying around. So let's click on next. Let's see if we can go to work origin. Okay, so I'm not sure which work origin this is, but I clicked on go to work origin. I'm a little nervous that it's gonna go too deep maybe, or too low. So I'm gonna get ready to stop it just in case. All right, so I didn't have to stop it. It's literally stopped right above it, a few millimeters. What we need to do now is fine tune the tip to the top of our material, and we're going to use this calibration card to set our gap. And so what we want is to get as close as possible to the material. So we're on 1 millimeter right now. I'm going to go down with the offset, and you guys saw that went down quite a bit. So I'm going to change to 0.01, well actually 0.1, and we can kind of feel it. Oh, so it grabbed. So once it grabbed, I'm going to go up 1, and that should be good right there. So now we can click on set work origin. And that also does appear to be completely the center of our platform. Maybe not exactly center, but I think for this project it's good enough. And if you're unsure, you can run the boundaries to see where the bit will go. So let's do that so you guys can see. It's going to run around where it needs to go. And it was a little close to that arm right there. So this is a little bit nerve-wracking, honestly. And maybe if you're, confused or not too sure, maybe don't install the bit until you got everything perfectly aligned. It wouldn't be too hard to break that thing off if it hit something. All right, so let's zoom in here a bit so we can see better. And so if everything looks good here, which it does, we're gonna click on start. Make sure you're wearing your goggles and maybe keep your area somewhat open because I think there might be some stuff flying around. But in any case, let's go ahead and go for it. And there it goes. And it made a little cut on that corner there. There it goes. So it's cutting away. And it is making a mess. Things going everywhere. And you guys can probably hear it cutting. So on the screen you have the progress here. Pause, stop. RPM is 11,000. That's the work speed. And the time passed. And we have remaining 33 minutes. And if we swipe over, we can control our work speed here. So you can actually slow it down if you need to. Maybe slow it down a bit. Let's see if we can slow it down. Okay, so when you slow it down, the bit doesn't slow down. It's just the process or the speed it moves. And it did get a little quieter, so I think maybe it's good that it's slower. Yeah, it seems a little more happy at 70% than it was at 100. So it's gonna leave it at that, I guess. And you probably should get a little vacuum ready to vacuum all this stuff up. But surprisingly, it's not going too far as the bed is large, so it's kind of all landing around here. There's a few chunks here and there, but no big deal. So yeah, we'll let it cut. I might vacuum it as it's cutting here and there just to keep it clean so we can see what it's doing. But yeah, we got it going and everything looks good. Alright, so it is finished and we got quite a bit of a mess here. So let's go ahead and vacuum it up. But what I'm seeing is I think we got into the wood because I see the top shavings here look a little different. Which if that's the case, I'm glad we put that little buffer underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and clean all this up. There's dust everywhere. And also on the tool head too, it's a bunch of it stuck around it. So yeah, we're going to clean this up real quick. Alright, that should be good for now. And yeah, looks like we did cut all the way through, and you'll see that, guys, in a second. But only thing is, I noticed that I did make a mistake. This arm here was a little too close to the tool head, and it actually butted into this bolt. It didn't cut all the way through here on this edge, which I think what I should have done is probably grabbed it maybe a little different or something where this bolt was more farther back. That did happen, and you got to be really careful with CNC as it's pretty brutal if you get something wrong, as you can have quite a bit of damage. So lifting this thing up, we can see that it was cut through all the way, which is good that we put this thing here. So it kind of saved us a bit without cutting our platform. And you guys can see on this corner here where it kind of jumped over this bolt with the tool head, causing it not to cut all the way through. So not a big deal, but definitely need to be more careful next time. Yeah, it looks like this is some kind of phone holder, and it should just kind of come apart quite easy. And we still need to take off the protective layer on the other side. But yeah, it should just kind of pop out, except for that part where it didn't cut too well, but it still breaks off pretty easily. And yeah, that's all of our pieces. So let's go ahead and peel the back here. And you could use like a knife to clean up the little high points and things like that. But yeah, overall, looks like we have a success. And again, I'm not sure how this thing goes. Actually, I think these little pieces need to come out. And using these snippers are the easiest way to break them loose. And I believe it goes, these slots here slot into like kind of cross pattern. And then this piece goes right here and it clicks it all together. I guess like that. So yeah, you can put your phone or even a tablet or something right in here, or you can flip it around and set it like that. So kind of works both ways, I guess. Maybe we can try it with this display. And look at that, pretty cool. So yeah, probably, you know, not the most useful thing you could make, but it was made here on the SnapMaker.